well, we argued at first because, and he would say, "It's not my fault. It ain't my fault that you're a hermit." Do you remember saying that to me?
I have no
It's not my fault
recollection.
that you don't like people. I mean, he was.
I do. That sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah, with, I mean, that was our thing. I'm like, do you really have to talk to everybody?
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine.
Whether you've been married 1 or 20 plus years, at some point, you realized you were married into crazy.
And that's what our podcast is all about. We offer love, laughter, and a dose of reality as we unpack this crazy thing called marriage.
So sit back, relax, and get your ear hustle on. It's time to start the conversation.
All right, let's go.
Episode 93 of the Married into Crazy podcast. This is Lovey.
This is Snooks.
And we welcome everybody back.
Everybody back.
It's been a fun-filled weekend. Well, kind of fun, not really fun.
I'm like, well,
I know. I was like, do I really call it fun? So as you know, everything's been going on out in the nation, and there's been a variety of peaceful demonstrations that have been taking place where we live. And so we had the pleasure of jumping right in and getting involved with a peaceful protest / rally that took place in our city. And it was interesting, to say the least. I was supposed to speak. It was kind of a last minute thing. We met the organizers earlier in the week when we went out and did a peaceful demonstration. And then I noticed that they were having another program on Saturday and we're looking for speakers. So I reached out late Friday night saying, hey, if you guys still need somebody, I wouldn't mind saying a few words. What?
True lovey form.
What do you mean?
I wouldn't mind saying a few words.
Well, no, I mean, it looked like they were still trying to get some people to
I'm
come
just
up and speak.
joking.
And so I reached out and they were very receptive. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of cool. It was funny. On a side note, I have to point out that everybody talks about 6 degrees of separation when you know somebody or you just never quite know, or you just don't know how closely you've been walking in certain circles, or pretty close. Because when I got into a conversation with the organizer of Wake Up Galt on Friday night, we just got into a conversation. I said, hey, I noticed on Facebook that we know some of the same people. And threw out a couple of names, and he was like, oh, that's my uncle. And I'm like, really? Because that's my wife's cousin.
Yeah, it's fun. It's so funny too because I was at their wedding. I was like, I wasn't the like coordinator, but I kind of was the bride helper in a sense. I wasn't part of the bridal party per se, but whatever she needed, I was getting for her. And after I saw him again, I was like, I remember him because he was cool. He kind of was helping his uncle. His uncle married my cousin. And we were kind of at the rehearsal dinner, not the rehearsal dinner, but at the rehearsal the day before. We were like looking at everyone like, okay, we had our own little camaraderie, basically.
Okay.
So, but it didn't click that was him until after you said it. And I was like, that is him. So, yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. So it's a small world. Actually, it's not a small world. I like to say it's a connected world. We're all connected in so many different ways. And if you take the time to just have a conversation and get to know the person standing next to you or standing across from you, you'll recognize that you have so much more in common than you do that's different. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I spoke to on Saturday. And I was pleasantly surprised because they asked if anybody else wanted to get up there, and little old quiet Snooks went up there and rocked the mic.
I wouldn't say I rocked the mic, but it was just it was really emotional because some of the feelings that I had, it brought up a lot of memories that as a child that I experienced at the hand of by the hands of racism, And so you talk about these people who are suffering, and it just, all these feelings started welling up, and I'm sitting there and I'm trying not to cry, and I just was overwhelmed, and I was like, I'm gonna say something. I was like, no, I'm not gonna say anything. And I was like, no, I am gonna say something, because Lubby actually asked me earlier, do you want to talk? And I was like, no, I don't want to speak. And I just had the overwhelming urge to share a little bit of my story.
And it was great. And the crowd was extremely supportive. If you want to see the speeches that we made, you can always go to our YouTube channel, because both of them are loaded up on the YouTube channel. There's the one of Snooks when she's speaking, and there's a separate one of when I was speaking as well. It's also located on our social media. You'll find it on our Facebook page as well as Instagram on IGTV. And so with that said, I do want to point out that we are always welcoming new listeners as well as old listeners, all of you, to go out to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. Please go over there, and we want to make this conversation discoverable. We want to make the podcast that much more discoverable. Mm-hmm. The more people we bring into the fold, the more individuals that start to participate in the conversation, as we like to say, I think the more robust the conversation becomes. Because more voices leads to more views, and views meaning views in how marriage is in a variety of different ways. Because we don't want it to always just be about our experiences or some of the individuals that we have an opportunity to meet. We want to hear from you as well. So there's a variety of ways that you can do that. First and foremost, Apple Podcasts. Go in there, leave a review, say something in there. Give us 5 stars, put 5 on it. Then you can also go to our social media, which is always going to be Married Into Crazy at either Instagram or Facebook. And quite honestly, if LinkedIn is more your speed, we are on LinkedIn as well. So there's a variety of different areas where you can actually dive in. And I didn't say it until late last time in the podcast, which was the 5 myths of marriage, that in observance of our fight, our growth, our demonstrations to try and create more social justice and equality, what we are doing in our own little way is at the end of every podcast from now until the end of the year, if not longer, but now until the end of the year, there will be 8 minutes and 46 seconds of silence. So when we sign off and do our traditional bye-bye that Snook says at the very end, from that point,
Bye-bye.
there will be 8 minutes and 46 seconds of silence until you hear the outro music. So we invite each and every one of you, if you're driving, if you're someplace that you could use a moment of reflection, please join us in those 8 minutes and 46 seconds to signify the loss, how long the knee was in the neck of George Floyd. So that's all I'm going to say about that right now, but it may be one way to actually show solidarity as we continue to have conversations about equality. Mm-hmm. So I did get some feedback from some people regarding the last podcast, 5 Myths of Marriage. Oh, you did?
Yeah.
You want to go?
No, you go first.
You go first.
I went first last time.
We're so polite. So one of the things I got back was like, well, those aren't the 5 myths I thought of. And different forms of social media, I put it out there again, just asking some questions. And they're like, well, I know those can't be the only 5 myths because
Maybe
I've heard other
went
things.
First.
Oh, why? Well, go for it. You go. Go ahead. Ladies first.
It was just funny. I'm sorry. But one of the officers that I work with, he was like, hey, I listened to your podcast. I was like, oh, okay.
He was like, who's 5-timer?
No. But what he said was, he said, I got a kick out of how, he said, he didn't say transparent, but basically that's what he was saying, how we were very transparent on the marriage kills sex part. Oh. And I laughed. He goes, so you said you schedule sex? And I said, well, yeah, I have in the past, And so one of the nurses was walking by and she's like, yeah, mine is every Thursday. And I laughed. It was just funny, So he goes, she's like, more people probably do it, but don't want to say that they do it because it seems to be some kind of way like, oh, like it presents like it's a problem. There's a problem in the marriage or whatever. But he was like, I really appreciated that. And my wife was like, I think that's a good idea to start trying to schedule sex because she goes, I'm tired. She said she's tired a lot. And then when it doesn't get scheduled, when they don't have it for X amount of however long, then they're cranky and then they think back and like, oh, we haven't done anything in a while, we haven't connected like that. So
it's funny you say that because on social media, actually Facebook specifically, there was one of the groups that I belonged to for, I think it was it was either the podcasting group or one of the marriage groups I belonged to. And we put that out there, the podcast, and someone responded and said, well, I thought sex was supposed to be spontaneous and in the moment, but don't mind me because I'm single and obviously not married. And I responded. I had a little conversation via social media and just stated that, no, absolutely. If you can, absolutely. Be spontaneous. Be spur of the moment. But when you're tired and you've got conflicting schedules and you got kids going all over the place, I was saying, it's better to schedule it and at least have it, something there that you can both commit to and participate to. It's a testament of your commitment to each other. Mind you, I say all this and I didn't know it was being
I was
scheduled.
about to say, you didn't even know it was being scheduled.
I was just happy.
But let me just say this in regards to
By the
that.
way, hold on. Let me give you my phone so you can schedule me in your calendar. Go ahead, take my phone. You know my sign in. You know my code. So go ahead. Anyway, what? Okay, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble.
Put that phone up.
Go ahead.
No, okay. So the way that it sounds kind of like prudish or whatever, like, people say it's supposed to be spontaneous and it's supposed, just because you, why are you laughing?
Because I was thinking, it sounds prudish. The first thing that came into mind was, oh, okay, well, today's Missionary Monday. And tomorrow's 2 for Tuesday.
Oh my goodness.
And then we have Wicked Wednesday. And then
Really? You're going to name stuff?
Theatrical Thursday.
Okay, so what's Friday?
That's for role playing, just so if you didn't know.
Oh, so on Thursday?
Oh, Freaky Friday.
Hey.
Sexy Saturday. And
Sanctified Sunday. We don't do nothing.
that might be Solitude Sunday. Oh my goodness.
You're so crazy. No, okay, so what I was going to say is, just because it's scheduled does not mean that it's not fun and it is not enjoyable. We schedule going to the movies. We buy our tickets. Do you enjoy the show?
When you're
I
not
enjoy the show.
I enjoy the show when you're not talking
I
to me
am
going,
not-
what did he say? Oh, you know who that is? That's William from that show. You know that show? That show that I watch that you don't watch, that you don't care nothing about, but that's William. You know what I'm talking about.
Really? We've
that
already
is-
discussed that.
I'm just
okay?
saying, that's you.
First of all, I can't help that I don't hear what they say. Okay. Just saying that part.
Go ahead.
Anyway, no, I just wanted to throw that in. Just because it may be scheduled, like, that's just saying I'm okay on Tuesday. I know I got to go to bed earlier or whatever day it is, we don't have that issue anymore because school is out. But when, like I
That
said,
would be,
when I was
for
in
those of you with
school-
your sex calendars, that would be Tactful Tuesday.
Tactful?
Tactful
That was
Tuesday.
very
Okay.
tactful. Anyway, no shame. So go.
No, I just say it was, but basically just explaining that it's something
It
that
happens. I mean,
Think about it.
Here's my thing. I'd rather make sure that, okay, I get it in on the calendar and I get
get it in. That's
it
right.
in.
Get it in.
as opposed to not. So,
Get it in is usually followed by amen. So,
amen.
amen. We're just having fun. So, it's funny, but one person did point out that there were some other myths that you guys didn't talk about. And I wanted to let everybody know there were a lot of myths
There was a ton
that
of
we
them.
didn't talk about.
I
We
had
just
like
tap into,
3 or 4 pieces or 4.
you had 6 pages.
Well, I had 3 sources and they all had their own.
It was funny though, but there was one that stood out that was common interests. It talked about common interests keep you together. That didn't make our list last week for whatever reason, but it's been on my mind.
Well, it's also funny that you talk about common interests because two things. Sorry, one of the people that we met on Saturday, she was saying how her and her husband were like total opposite. They've been married for a long time though, but they were total opposite, and they make it work. And then there's another person that I work with who told me a story about opposites. How the woman and the man, they're actually going through like some very, very hard times right now because they're so total opposite. They've been together for I think they've been married for 4 years, but before that they were married together for like maybe 5 years and stuff. So it's like, so if you're total opposite from someone, what is that saying? Opposites attract. Opposites attract. So what is it about that? Is that true? Is it something that we explore? Are opposites better to be with than someone, what is that, birds of a feather flock together type of mentality? You have the common interest that you stay together more, or the opposites give me weigh in on that for me.
Well,
Sorry.
I don't think there's any hard set rule that you have to be opposites or you have to be alike. I do think that you hear that phrase opposites attract more often than not. And I think it's funny because if you think about a puzzle piece, I look at marriage as a puzzle. And when you bring it together, think about, grab a puzzle piece if you can. But if not, a puzzle snaps in. So if there's an indenture on one side, there's another part that's sticking out. And that part that's sticking out has to actually go into the part that's indentured. Those are opposites, right? When one's giving, the other one's giving, or vice versa. It's these pieces have to kind of flow into each other. And they're actual opposites. Because if they were exactly the same, the puzzle pieces would never go together.
Okay.
So
So you're saying that you like the
opposites attract? I do, because we're opposites. Look,
we are very opposite.
in our relationship, when people tried to get us to meet each other, it was funny. They were like, "Oh, you should meet so and so. You're really gonna like her." I'm like, "I'm not trying to hear that." And I threw your number away. People were telling you, "Oh, this guy, he's nice," you know, da 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 da, and you threw my number away. I think it was more about where we were in life at that time. You know, the bad relationship you were in, the bad relationship I was in, and just trying to focus on ourselves. But even when we met each other, actually, I liked you. You didn't like me. I was thinking, yeah, I like her. I saw nothing but teeth and boobs.
Oh, whatever.
I had to save her. She was a hussy when I met her. But that's a
okay.
whole other podcast. No, but you didn't like me. You weren't attracted to me initially because I wasn't.
Were not my type. You
I was
were
not
total
your type.
opposite of what I.
Truth be told, you weren't my type initially, outside of the teeth and boobs.
I'm a horse and chicken.
The breasts. That's so funny. Breasts. So it's funny how that worked though, because then our personalities came together and we had conversations, and you know, I knew that night that I was like, wow, she's different. She's somebody. There's just something that about you that resonated with me. But take a look at my sister, and my brother-in-law. God bless them. When they met each other online. They're going to come up on another podcast when we start doing a dating series. But they met each other via Match.com. And he was very different from the types of people that she had been looking for. She was very different from the types of people that he was looking for. And they just celebrated, 12 years? No.
It's longer than that, because
How old's nephew?
I think it's 15 years, because Kiki didn't go on the cruise with us.
I think it is 15 years. So 15 years of marriage. And they are, it's so funny that they're still, to look at them and listen to them talk, they are so opposite, but they make it work. It's like they're opposite ends of the spectrum or the pendulum. They have a tendency to have things to talk about. Because they don't have everything in common, there's a multitude of things for them to discuss. It's like they constantly reintroduce, just like us. I talk about stuff, you talk about stuff. Our worlds are different. So when we come together, we're almost never at a loss for things to, come up in conversation, to spend some time with each other. And I think it's good in that respect. And like the lady that we met this weekend, she was talking about how she always has to, it's almost like, oh, I got to manage him. But she's got to deal with him and he deals with her. And I think it's a beautiful thing.
Okay, so you bring up something. Okay, I'm gonna get back to that. So write manage down.
Manage
him.
Sorry, I just hit the microphone.
So, like Lovey said earlier, we were when Lovey met my family was like, "That's the guy."
No, that's not how they said it. That might be the words they said, but they were like, "Yeah, that's the guy."
No, they did not. They, especially my cousins, the boy cousins, they were like,
"Mal loved me."
He loved you, but after the whole "that's the guy." So I say that because, okay, so I think I've said this before. I always like the cool brothers. Oh my goodness.
Oh, I'm not cool now. Oh,
babe,
let it all out. Come on.
You're a nerd, babe. Remember I thought you were nerdy? Come on. So let's look at liking Lovey. I thought he was a nerd, to the type of person that I was always more drawn to. So, remember Rollo? Of Sanford and Son?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I like the Rollos.
She likes the Rudies from
Who's Rudy?
Fat Albert
Rudy.
wearing the hat.
No, Rollo. Rudy was not cute.
Anyway,
Rollo was so cute to me when I was little. Oh my gosh.
she was down with Thug
He
Nation.
was so cool. He always had his hat on. He was always
Tilted
just
on the brim.
yes, it just had a little swag to him. So I was always
I've never
like,
been Rollo.
No, you never been. Lovey was never Rollo. He was not my type. So Lovey was more of an opposite. And then the other parts played into it. I'm an introvert. He's an extrovert.
Amen.
I think Lovey's more impulsive. I'm more of a planner. So, I mean,
Yeah.
we learn to work with that, but I just had to throw that out. The initial, like, who is he kind of thing. But then when people get to know you and they talk to you, of course, very nice guy, and they see that he's the type of guy that I really should be with, not
you deserve.
not
That's right.
Rollo.
Well, see, look, when she's talking about introvert, extrovert, these are some things we talk about when we go through our workshops and we do our coaching. So when you look at the Married into Crazy coaching, as a matter of fact, I should point this out that we have a workshop. It's a free workshop that is going to take place on June 27th. It'll be online via Zoom, and we're going to be giving an introduction to DISC, utilizing the DISC assessment and giving some consultation on at least an introduction to help you understand how to have better communication with each other. So you can always go to our website, marriedintocrazy.com/coaching, scroll till you see the workshop. Feel free to register, and within 24 hours, you will receive access to a DISC assessment that we will ask you to hold on to so you can participate and understand what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how to have a 5-star marriage, how to really determine what crazy really means from a biblical perspective and how we approach our marriage. And the reason why I bring all that up right now is because A, we want you to participate in the workshop, but B, and it's free. Did I say free? Oh, I'm sorry. It's free $99. We just raised the price to free $99. And no, but we really want you to participate or bring that up because introversion and extroversion is a part of what you learn when you start to study your own DISC. But it's those opposites where you learn how to fill each other in. See, I'm a very high, what you'll learn some of these terms in our workshop, but I'm a very high pilot and flight attendant, whereas she's very much air traffic controller and ground crew. And we'll get into those more in the workshop. So if you want to learn those terms and understand what we're talking about, definitely go to our website and register. But because of those, what do you want to call them? Traits that we have being opposite. There was a preacher's wife. I don't know if it was Jerry Falwell's wife or I don't, and I'm just throwing out a name, but there was a big time preacher that I can't think of his name, but he was the gentleman that had the Crystal Cathedral down in Southern California. And
I know what you're talking about.
his wife had a comment once that said that, they never believe anybody that says, a couple that says they don't argue. Because she was quoted saying, honey, look, let me just tell you that if y'all don't argue, one of you isn't necessary. Because if you agree to every little thing, that means that one of you isn't using your mind, or at least you're not speaking your mind. And I think that when it comes to opposites attracting, a lot of it comes back to not being the same. And I think that's where we learn. That's how we grow in marriage, because though you want to be on one accord when you make major decisions, you should have differing opinions at times so that way you can help each other grow. And it has absolutely nothing to do with being equally yoked. That's something completely different. Equally yoked has nothing to do with thinking the same or being the same. Now, for those of you that are a lot alike and you guys enjoy that works as well. Because sometimes whatever works in your relationship and brings sanctity and cohesiveness, then it works. And don't look at yourself thinking, oh, well, we're not opposites. Maybe something's wrong. Or you are opposites. Like, oh, well, we're not alike. Don't ever look at someone else thinking, oh, we got to be more like them. No, if it's working for you and there's happiness and love and respect and honesty in your relationship, keep doing what you're doing. That's what's working for you.
Okay, you totally took over I was totally not done with what I was gonna say.
Well, you need to be more assertive and jump in,
So
Miss
that
Introvert.
that's an example of us being total opposite. He just totally hijacked where I was going with my stuff, but it's okay.
And she passive aggressive comes in and
No, because
makes me need more counseling.
only because we're on the podcast, and I don't want to go off. No, but I want to go back to what
Nothing.
exactly. I want to go back to like you were saying about the lady, how she manages him. So, one thing though, when we talk about opposites attracting, it's about a lot of it comes down to compromise. I think
Talking the mic because they won't hear you like last week.
they heard me. That's why I got good compliments. A lot of it comes down to compromise, you know, and it depends on what the opposite is. What are the opposing views? You know, that's what for me that's what it comes down to. We're opposite as far as like how you're an extrovert, as they always see on the podcast. You talk like 80% of the time.
Okay.
I talk like maybe 20, and even when I want to say something, you moved on to something else, and I don't
Hey.
want to always have to backtrack. So I'm more of a planner. You're impulsive, like but our values that we have, a lot of those are the same. I'm not going to say that they have always been that way. Our personality traits, those are different, but the values, our innate values that we have, those are the same. And I think that that's key when you talk about opposites. We could be opposite in a whole lot of areas, but if our values align, I think that you're able to move forward, and you able to work the things out. It's almost like I think about the Odd Couple sometimes. You remember them, Felix
and Oscar.
Oscar, exactly. So Felix was the neat guy, and Oscar was the slob, and they made it work because Felix was like, "Oh, I'm not going over on that side," and Oscar wouldn't go on Felix's side. But then they'd fight when they got in the middle. Get your stuff up. Why are you so this and that or whatever? So you have to learn how to compromise too on those things that you're totally opposite against. I'm trying to think of an example of our opposites. So
us?
when we first got married, so I had to learn how to adjust and be okay with Lovey's extrovertism. I just made that word up. So when we first got married, we would go grocery shopping together. I think I told this story before. I'm not even sure why we grocery shop together, because that's just not something that we do. And Lovey would talk to everyone, and I talk to no one except for if I'm asking a question of the cashier or one of the stock people. Lovey talks to everyone, and there will be times where he's talking and I'm like, oh my God, he better be quiet. I'm not trying to be standing around here waiting for this guy to stop talking. And the lady would be done. They'd bag our stuff, and then I pay, and he's still talking. And then I have to sit there, and I'm like, oh, oh yeah, oh, I was like, I'm not doing that no more. I'm not smiling till my cheeks hurt. So I started just being like, love, I need the keys. And so I started just going to the car. After an appropriate amount of time, I would never just be rude about it. But so we found our groove with that, as far as him talking a lot and me not talking at all. But we argued at first and he would say, it's not my fault. It ain't my fault that you're a hermit. Do you remember saying that to me?
I have no
It's not my fault that you don't like people. I mean, he was.
I do. That sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah, that was our thing. I'm like, do you really have to talk to everybody? Well, it's not my fault you don't like people, Rana. I'm a people person. I'm like, well, I'm not. So, well, maybe you need to get out of your shell. And so we would kind of,
This is before disc, by the way.
Yeah. This is before year 4. So, we learned to compromise on the things that we did not necessarily agree with. But even when just want to just talk about disc just a small bit, one thing that when people say about opposites attracting, a lot of people say, well, I've heard that it's like you're searching for the missing part of you. So we make up because we're total opposite, not total opposite, but we're on different spectrums. When we come together, we're like one person. So where disc is concerned, you're the D and the I, I'm the S and the C. So you're die and I'm sk.
That's right.
So, but together we're disc. We make one whole unit or whatever.
That was like
but
an electric company. Disc. Disc. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. I think you make a valid point there. It's
Thank
kind of the
you.
yin and the yang.
Appreciate it.
If you look at the yin yang symbol, it's opposites attracting. You've got the white. I don't even know what you want to call that symbol, but you look at the Tao, you look at that, and they complement each other. Or you had two parts. Oh man, my throat. Start talking.
Well, you have two parts and they fit together. I guess that's what he was going to say. Are you back?
No, that was weird. Yeah.
COVID?
Much. But yeah, you have the two parts that actually fit together. I apologize for that, ladies and gentlemen. And when those two parts fit together, it's just like, it's a perfect complement. It's weird. My throat is really hurting right now.
That's how it starts.
Right? No, it's all this compromise. Talk of compromise.
Uh-oh.
You were talking about how much I talk.
You
My
don't know,
body's rebelling right now.
You don't know how to compromise. That's what you're saying. No, go
My
ahead.
vocal cord was like, no more. We are rebelling.
I think I know where you're going with this. I hope. We're like they fit together. One is facing one way, the other's facing another way, but kind of like the puzzle pieces that you were talking about.
Right.
You connect them and they're together. Even like the chords, they go together. They look totally different. Like, yeah, one end of the cord. They go.
Are you talking about extension cord?
Well,
Like a plug?
I guess.
I don't know what kind of cord. Listen, we're going
That's
to
a
move on.
cord. A cord that you put together. Yes. Okay, never mind, Lovey.
Okay, like an extension cord. That's what she's talking about.
Okay. No, I'm not talking about extension cord. But anyway, go.
Anyway, it's when two things come together. However you want to picture it. It could be a puzzle. It could be the yin yang. It could be a variety of things. But the bottom line is, look, let's just talk about day and night. Day and night come together. It meets at one point, but they're a perfect complement to each other. There's an ebb and a flow. You get the waves come in, the wave goes out. But when it's all said and done, there's a balance. And I think that's the thing that matters most, is that at some point you find balance between the two. Husband and wife, whether it's opposites attract or whether it's two, you have a lot of commonality and you guys both have so much fun in that. There's a balance there that helps each other ensure that, you're contributing to the relationship. And that's ultimately all that matters.
Well, it's funny too, because some people have said that when you're too much alike, like you said, the whoever the lady was, who was that? Somebody's wife said if you both think alike.
Oh, it was the preacher's wife. I can't think of her name.
You both think alike, then one is not needed. Well, a lot of people find security and safety and comfort in that because like minds think are.
Oh.
What's that saying? Say
it. I'm just supposed to read your mind right now.
But if you get kind of complacent. A lot of you're too much alike, then it's boring. You get boring. You get stagnant. You need some excitement. You need some passion. You need some adventure. You need to spice it up and just.
Well, being opposites again. I'm not saying that's the only way, but being opposite does kind of keep you on your toes. Because it's like, oh God, because I hear you half the time. I come in the kitchen, or you and the girls are talking or whatever, and it's like, oh God, what's Dad doing now? Or what's he about to do now? Oh goodness, it's always something. And it's not a negative so much as it's, though I'll play it up to be a negative, but it's not. But it's one of those things where it keeps everybody on their toes. Like, okay, here comes the entertainment. What's about to happen next? Yeah. We do the same thing with Keek. Our youngest daughter it's there should be some spice in the relationship.
No, she needs to tone it down.
But it's one of those things where you just never know. And I think sometimes it helps when you have that opposite piece. But anyway, that's all I really wanted to talk about was how opposites attract. Did you have anything else? Kind of like the whole, any lessons from this weekend and talking with the lady?
No, we just kind of talked about, like you said, I asked her though, was like, so what was the draw? What was the draw to him? And she kind of was like, well, he was so different that she was almost in awe. like enamored by him, by the difference of, you know, how she was one way, he was another way. And it sometimes makes you have an introspective, like, oh, okay, I never thought about it that way. So, okay, I can see that. And so it gives you a different point of view. But my challenge is, I won't say that's my challenge, but I always think about, okay, longevity wise, if everything that, I won't say everything, but if it's like everything is so different, because those differences can be very major.
Well, I don't know. I kind of like it. Like when I ask you, how was your day? I genuinely want to hear about your day because the way you handle things, completely different from the way that I handle things. So I think it's entertaining when you share what your day was like. And I know how I would respond, but it's nice to hear how it develops. I think that there's an innate amount of curiosity that each of us have when it comes to another individual and how they're doing things. And I think that curiosity helps tremendously when you are opposites because it's,
Yeah, I agree with that to a certain extent though. But just like, okay, say you meet someone, you guys come in a room or whatever, and you meet someone, and you say one thing and they say something different, and it's always different. Like, can you really, what, I don't know. I always have a problem with, like, oh, if it's too much, if everything is different or we're total opposite, because I'm like, oh, I can see us fighting, and I don't want to be fighting with no one. But
well, I mean, that's a huge disparity though. I think there's a difference between opposites attract, introvert, extrovert coming together. There still has to be some common ground because like you said, we had the same values.
right,
And I think our values tied us together. So I think if you have two individuals where A, they're complete opposites, and then B, their values are misaligned, C, there's, well, I think that right there would probably cause a lack of respect because if your values aren't aligned, then I don't really respect where you're coming from, or I don't understand where you're coming from. Or at least
I agree with
I
that.
don't see any kind of congruency between the way I was raised or what you do. Or I mean, there has to be something that binds.
that makes me, every time I hear this song, whenever it comes on the radio, there's a song called
I like
on
big butts. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no no, it's called On Chill. It's by Wale. Okay, I only know that because your dashboard
Oh, the
tells
song,
you
yeah.
whatever. But it starts out, we've been on a tragedy for months. Why can't you agree with me for once? And that reminded me of, like, you talk about total opposites. They're on a tragedy. They can't agree, and no one's listening. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that could be the same thing when you have the same values and you're not the complete opposite. But that always makes me think about, these are two different, they're total opposite people. And so he's like, why aren't you listening? How come you just can't agree with me? We're a tragedy because we're like a train wreck because our values and everything were so total opposite. Whereas someone else would be like, oh, it's so spicy and it's so,
I don't know. I feel like there needs to be that piece. I think what we just talked about, that something that binds. I don't need you to agree with me,
really.
and you don't need me to agree with
I'm
you.
going to replay that every single time you say something.
I don't.
I'm going to rewind it back. We're going to get on the podcast. You said you don't need me to agree with you.
I don't need you to agree, but I do need you to respect at least my point of view. And I don't always agree with you, but I respect your point of view. And even if we agree to disagree, I still think there's some value in learning your perspective.
Unless it's dumb.
And then there's that.
I'm just playing. No, but I agree with that. I agree with that.
No, so and
Because what is that saying? But well, I don't remember who said it, but it's like you're always learning something. Everyone I meet is my master in some
way or fashion.
Okay, there you go.
And of that I learn.
There you go.
And
I listen.
you do. Partially. You got half of it right.
Go, Rhonda. High five
Another
me.
23 years and you're going to get the whole...
I'll say the whole thing. I don't even know who said it. Confucius.
I'll teach you that in the next 23.
Okay, got it.
It was not Confucius. It was Mark Twain. Close,
Okay,
right? Close,
whatever.
but no cigar.
No.
Anyway, so that's where we're at. You know, that's something that we really think everybody should take to heart. You know, there's that whatever's working for you, let it continue to work. But I thought it was an interesting thing that someone else brought up, and we talked about those opposites, and it all stemmed from one of those myths that we never really got around to talking about. So I think it's time for us to dig into the I Can.
Oh, do we still have any left?
I don't know. You tell me. You got to open it up. So again,
Ooh, we got a few.
go to marriedintocrazy.com/coaching and sign up for the, it's a 2 hour, it's actually an hour and a half workshop. It'll be from 10 to 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And it will be live. We will be on a line. And last time it was a lot of fun. We had people from all over the United States. There was people like in Tennessee and in Texas, California. It was a lot of fun. So, are you gonna pull? You just
sorry.
she's over here reading them. She's supposed to. Okay, look. Let me tell you the premise of the I Can. So the I Can has 40 different I Can statements in them, and it's all about couples. Little things that you can do, almost like they are affirmations. But you're not supposed to read them and pick the one that you want.
Babe, you were
No,
just
give me that back. That don't work. I snatched it out of her hand, put it back in, because she was reading them and picking what she wanted. So, good. Now, pick another one.
I don't want to do that one this week.
And what you do is when you pick the affirmation, you can do it however you want. You can pick one for the two of you, and that's what you both focus on, or you each pull one. It can be what you focus on for that day. It could be what you focus on for the week. It could be what you focus on for the month. However you want to do it, but it's just something from the outside in that you select that's going to give you a little something, a little different focus. So
And it's just something small that you can do
that's a lot of
together.
fun. Yeah, and that's also available on our website. You can go to our shop and check it out. So mine says, I can encourage my partner to follow their dreams. Done. Did it. She got her degree. I did it. I encouraged her. You need to get your master's degree now.
Really?
Yep, I did.
Anyway, I can share more often. So when I come home from work, I'm going to share, and you can't
Whether
be
I
all
want you to
whether
or
you
not.
want me to or not. Because I'm gonna tell you guys right now, there are times, and it's not even when I come home, where I understand when he's working, but there are times when I want to go in and I want to talk, and he's just sitting there, and he has that tolerant look on his face, and I would rather you say, "Babe, I don't really want to hear it right now," than to give me the tolerant look. Don't do that. I hate that, and I'm like, oh. No, I'm okay. I'm listening. I'm like,
I've gotten better over the years.
Oh no, you have gotten better over the years, but every now and then you'll revert.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, hey, you know what? I got something else I need to do.
Yep,
I hear you.
exactly.
Hey, we thank each and every one of you
think?
for. I think. We thank each and every one of you for participating in the podcast and listening. You could be listening to a lot of other podcasts, and we're very grateful that you have chosen to spend some time with us and allow us to pour into you. And we welcome you pouring into us as well. So the different venues that I mentioned earlier in the podcast, please go and visit our social media. Let us know your thoughts, recommendations, suggestions, what you like, you don't like, so forth. All of that. We want to hear it all. So now,
Did you say don't forget to rate?
I said that earlier.
Okay.
So what I am going to ask you to do, though, is to join us for the next 8 minutes and 46 seconds of silence to ensure that we're paying homage to all those people, George Floyd and many other countless names that have been silenced as a result of the social injustice that has been taking place for many, many decades. So until the next time, be blessed.
Bye-bye.